barricades whisper in the hall, where justice wears a mask and truth begins to fall. Every thread they pull, every lie they weave, in the courtroom's dance, who's left to believe? Oh, the devil's in the details, hiding in plain sight, innocent until the gavel steals the light. True crime echoes through the hollow night, fighting injustice with no end. The devil's in the details, hiding in plain sight, innocent until the gavel steals the light. True crime echoes through the hollow night, fighting injustice with no end in sight. A photograph fades where the truth once stood. Blurred lines between the bad and the good. The scales they tilt with every silver tongue, while the broken cry for a song unsung. Black robes sway like shadows on the wall. One wrong word and the mighty fall. Who's a sinner? Who's a saint? The jury's out, but the verdict's faint. Oh, the devil's in the details, hiding in plain sight, innocent until the gavel steals the light. True crime echoes through the hollow night, fighting injustice with no end. The devil's in the details, hiding in plain sight, innocent until the gavel steals the light. True crime echoes through the hollow night, fighting injustice with no end in sight.
All right, everybody. Can I get a wave backstage? Make sure that I'm good. Okay, thank you very, very much. It is another Crimes After Dark show on a what the hell is this? Is this Monday night? I think this is Monday night. Yeah. All the days blend together. My wife and I are on the weirdest sleep schedule I've ever seen. We're up till 3-4 o'clock in the morning, and then we sleep in, then I get back up, and then I go back to sleep again, and I lose track of days, and it's starting to become a major problem. I would love to get back on a schedule. I don't even know what a schedule looks like anymore. Anyways, right now, we're going to go live with my panel. We've got several guests behind stage. I don't remember what Joe from State of the Deep status is. I think we're getting him. I think we're getting him tonight. He may just be a little bit late, actually. If I recall, we're going to get him a little bit late. Other than that, we're going to get our regular panel up on stage. We're going to talk about some things that are going on, some late news. For example, Howard Blum changing his opinion after writing a book and going on multiple documentaries telling us Bryan Kohberger did it. Here's how he did it. And here's what he was thinking when he walked in the house and slaughtered those four girls. And now his latest news article says, I don't think he did it alone if he did it. But you literally wrote a book on it. Anyways, so now he's like, I'm not sure after seeing the crime scene photos that's what's happened. We'll talk about that with my panelists. We'll talk about other people that are making rounds, things that are being said, what are weigh in on it. We are not here, real quick, I'm going to let you know, we are not here to shit on other channels. We don't like to do that kind of thing. Everybody is welcome to have different opinions. We welcome different opinions and different ways of attacking this case and understanding the case so that we can understand all of the things. So if we get to a point today, and we probably will, as a panel, where we're discussing some of the things that other content creators are saying in light of the new crime scene photos and new videos that are coming out, we will do so in a respectful manner, and we're not going to trash other opinions. We're just going to say, this is what someone says, and do we agree or disagree with it? And it's respectful. And so that's the way we're going to handle that. That's the way we roll. Dago is going to come on first because he's queued up backstage. Dago, how are you doing today?
Forget about it. I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for having me. It's great. I always have my thing muted, and I can never find my mouse when I need to. Sorry.
Especially when I surprise you, like, you're on.
Yes. Wonderful to be here. How are you doing this evening, sir? It's great to be back with you. And
very good.
Definitely looking forward to tonight's show for sure.
I am as well. And Defense Rests, I see you're in the channel. I've reached out to you personally. I know that some people said you were looking to get a hold of me. I reached out back to you as well. I don't know that I saw your return or my return. So I see you in the chat. Welcome. I did reach out to see if we can make a communication. So if you're still looking to talk to me, that communication channel is open. Welcome to the other people on our channel, by the way, and Dago's group that's over here, the Meatballs and all his community and our denizens and everybody mixed together. It's a fantastic thing. We're co-streaming on both sides. You're welcome to hang out on either side of the stream you want. So thanks for being a part of this great collaboration and teamwork that we've got. And Dago's been a great member of our panel since we started bringing him on a regular basis, and we're super thankful to have him. I'm going to bring Robin on next and one last, since one often gives us a little bit of a monologue to kind of bring us into the new night. I would say the new year, but it's the new night. So let's bring in Robin. Robin, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, thank you. Good to be here with everyone. Glad that you gentlemen seem to be doing good tonight. And hello out there to all the mods and the meatballs and our denizens and everyone. It's always a pleasure to be here. So I hope everyone that's been affected by these storms is safe and warm and all snug in your house. So
I was just going to ask you, how's the blizzard on the East Coast? Is it all kind of past now, or?
Yeah, it's all done here. Yeah. So, and
It's
somebody,
really-
I don't know who was nice enough to snow blow our driveway. So I have no idea, but to whoever that kind soul was, thank you very much.
That's awesome. That is awesome. I've had that kind of thing happen too. I love it when neighbors just do, and I love that. I love that kind of stuff. And just somebody just comes over and is like, well, shit, my neighbor needs this too. I think I'll just blow theirs off real quick. That's awesome. Great stuff. Well, I'm glad that you guys are survived this storm. Were you kind of stuck in that storm too, Dago?
Bad. It just recently stopped. It was like flurrying slightly, but we can have like almost 2 feet of snow here, bro.
Wow.
It's a lot.
Yeah, and I think where was the football game? The Denver Patriots game. Was it back on the East Coast? Because I saw a lot of snow in that game and the football game too.
So. Yeah, I think so.
It must have been in New England, right? Or
anyways, sure. Matt, they got hammered up there too. Yeah.
Well, anyways, it's good to have you guys on. I'm glad you guys have survived the snowstorm. We'll get one. He also was stuck in that snowstorm in the New York area. So how are you doing tonight?
Evening, denizens, meatballs, Dago, Robin, Bossman.
Good to see you, brother.
Nice Monday night. I'm glad the storm is kind of going away. Nice 2-hour shoveling I had before yesterday's stream. That was
and we have one of our mods that has a daughter stuck in a flight waiting to get to New York because flights to New York are still delayed. So it's a thing on the East Coast, and I'm glad that you guys are okay, because it sounds like it was pretty brutal for a while. At least it didn't last for days and days, right? It's not socking you out.
It was in. I'm just worried about the melting and causing flooding now because there's so much snow.
Yeah. So great to have you all here. It's so weird that this missing tooth in the side of my face, which hasn't been capped yet with a bridge, still makes me talk with a lisp. I should, instead of having the lisp case, I should have the lisp case. We're gonna do the lisp case today. And
That's good. I like that.
All right, one. Do you want to read us in for the night and kind of get us started?
Sure. All right. This is good to be alive at the den on a Monday night. Yeah. Right. Jackson, Juliana, love you guys. And of course, love my beautiful wife. Have a good night. They tell us justice has a timeline, that answers come neatly packaged, that once an arrest is made, the story is over. But some stories don't end. They just go quiet. And silence can be the loudest thing in the room. Tonight, we're not chasing headlines. We're standing in the spaces between them. The pauses, the delays, the moments where certainty feels rehearsed and doubt feels earned. Because there are cases that refuse to sit still, cases that shift when you look at them too closely, cases where the questions don't disappear, they multiply. In Moscow, Idaho, 4 lives were taken while the world slept. A quiet college town a familiar house, a night that was supposed to end like every other. Instead, it became a crime scene frozen in time, measured in steps, seconds, and speculation. Who saw that? Who saw what? Who heard nothing? Who was awake? Who wasn't? Timeline stretched, phone data parsed, movements reconstructed like a puzzle missing pieces. Pieces, we're told, don't matter, but they always matter. Then there's the Delphi, a case that lived in the dark for years, a town holding its breath, a suspect no one noticed until suddenly everyone did. When the arrest finally came, it felt like relief. But relief is not the same as understanding, and closure is often just a word we use to sleep at night. Because long investigations leave long shadows, and the longer the silence, the harder it is to tell where certainty ends and assumption begins. This is Devil's Advocates. We don't rush to judgment. We don't accept conclusions just because they sound official. We ask why some questions are answered quickly and others are quietly avoided. 2 cases, 2 investigations, 2 paths that promise answers, and 1 question that refuses to go away. Are we seeing the full picture or only the version we're meant to accept? Turn the lights down, lean in, and listen carefully, because once you hear the silence, you can't unhear it. This is Devil's Advocates. And with that, live from New York, it's Monday night.
Wow, that's very cool. I'm so cool. I'm so glad you worked in a little talk about Delphi as well. Like it seems like when we're on this show, we talk about Idaho 4 so much.
Yeah.
People fail to remember that we cover like 5 different cases.
Right.
See, there's that lisp again showing up. We cover a lot of different cases, and Delphi is definitely one of the other ones that I know. I don't know what the hell's going on.
We have 11 quesos, guys. We're about to chow down.
Yeah, quesos. Yeah. Ooh, that sounds kind of good. Like I could go for queso.
Yes.
Yeah. So So anyways, you guys, I off the top of my head, seen a lot of action going on. Unbelievably, I saw Harsh Reality talking about Brent Kopaka. That surprised me because I thought I was one of the some AI attributed me with the only person who talks about Brent Kopaka, but now Harsh Reality has talked about him. I know that Pavarotti's talked a little bit about Kopaka in recent months. So the name's coming up again, which is interesting because I don't know that anything really new has happened in the Kopaka thing other than body worn camera footage that we broke down that we got from public records request that seems to show more questions than answers, as is the case.
I think I have an idea why he's coming back up.
I would love to. Let's do that right now. Tell me what you think. Why is that coming back up again?
Well, the main reason is we've all seen these new crime scene photos. Okay, when you look at Xana's bedroom, there's no doubt now in my mind specifically, and I've seen many other people say the same thing, that there's no probability, at least not in my mind again, that this was done by one person. So in turn, there's even the people that I believe Bryan Kohberger did do this are now looking for a secondary person to be involved in this. Even them, because when they look at this, they're just no. And I'm sure we're going to talk about this, but that's what I believe the reason is.
Well, if you, at the risk of stepping all over everybody, that's a great segue. Howard Blum, who wrote the book When the Night Comes Falling. We read the whole book on our channel and chapter by chapter and did a review of it. Howard Blum has been on multiple documentaries. They use him as a source on every documentary coming out telling us Kohberger did it and he did it alone. And now Howard Blum yesterday came out with a major article saying, looking at the crime scene photos, I now don't believe Bryan Kohberger did it alone. I think he did it with someone. That was a big shocker. And then he added this. I think Bryan Kohberger didn't have a motive to kill anybody. I think somebody else, this is what he said. I think somebody else had the motive, and Bryan Kohberger was just a friend of that person and wanted to impress that person with his knowledge, which again, he pulled that shit out of his ass. Like
I've never seen anybody backpedal so fast in my life. I've never seen it.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. I said for the longest time, I have reason to believe Kopaka and Kohberger both came from Pennsylvania, and they could have known each other from Pennsylvania. So now all of a sudden, Howard Blum says, and new people are talking about Kopaka, and Howard Blum says, I think there was somebody else involved, and maybe he was trying to help a friend. Well, could it have been someone? Now, let me caveat this a million times. All respect to Bryan Kopaka and the military service and the Purple Heart. If he had nothing to do with it, I'm ashamed that we have to keep asking the question.
Sure.
But we have to keep asking the question because he was a major suspect on a lot of people's radar, and a lot of people felt that his death a month later was highly suspicious. His friend thought that they were looking at him as a possible suspect in the Idaho 4 murders, and now, as you said, people like Howard Blum are coming forward and said, I think somebody, and by the way, as Harsh Reality said, rumor was Bryan Kohberger had a silver Elantra of the same year, 11 through 13, that would have matched suspect vehicle 1. So we can't ignore the possibility. You can't.
Right.
I don't care how much you want. You can't.
I saw somebody throw the sentencing hearing out today, and it brings up Bill Thompson making that statement again. You take it how you want to, but I'm taking it this way now because of all these other things we're seeing where he makes the statement and says, don't get me wrong, and understand that we don't believe that Bryan went there with the intention of committing all the murders.
Right.
Yeah.
Which leads me to believe that what he's kind of saying, without saying it, because he won't say it, we know that, in a sense, if you think about whatever else he said that day too, that it kind of leads to that maybe Bryan committed a murder, but it wasn't really his idea. It was somebody else's idea to kill somebody else, and Bryan killed somebody too. I mean, you can take it that way if you read into it a little bit. It's kind of crazy. So
right. And to be fair, you're right. You could. I mean, and again, the new. I mean, Howard Blum's now saying, I think it wasn't done by one guy. I think more. I mean, even Howard Blum was breaking down what I've been saying, and you guys have been saying forever. One person couldn't do 4 murders and 2 floors in 8 or 9 minutes. It's not possible. That's what Howard Blum is now saying it. He did the math. He's like, now wait a minute. I mean, we have to account for time for him to get in his car.
Yeah, he said it's always bothered him, Lee.
It's always bothered him.
Yeah, right.
It's always bothered him, and yet he literally has a chapter of his book talking about how Kohberger was circling around the neighborhood trying to work up the courage to go in and kill everybody, and how he went in there and did it all by himself. He literally wrote a whole, telling us what was in Bryan Kohberger's mind while he did the killings. Yes. And now he's saying, you know what? I don't think Kohberger actually went there to kill anybody. I don't think I don't think that he had a motive. I think it was somebody else.
He sees the room. He sees these photos, and he sees, there's no way that one person could have done this in that amount of time.
He knows.
But
Bryan didn't even do it. Bryan wasn't there at all. It wasn't him.
Right. But the other thing, but I guess he doesn't want to completely backpedal because it'll completely make his book look like a pile of trash that it is.
Well, yes.
The other big question that goes that we've talked about many times on here, I know Lee, whoever, all of us have said it. You see that, whatever, Kaylee's probably killed somewhere else and carried up, but you look at forget about even Kaylee and Maddie, just Xana and Ethan, just that room alone. Mm-hmm. How could BK commit those murders in there and not have one little thing of evidence that gets dragged into his car, into the apartment, into his parents? It's not possible.
It's not possible.
Talk to any forensic expert, anyone. I'm not a forensic expert, but talk to any of them and they will tell you the probability of that. I don't care if he put a bag over him and he changed his clothes and he did all that. He still would have gotten something. There would have been something that would have been brought.
I don't even. Right. I agree, and we all agree, and apparently now Howard Blum agrees. But I also don't understand how the inverse doesn't happen. I don't know how that killer mounts people and stabs them to death and pins them down and all these things and doesn't transfer DNA from himself onto them. Clothing fibers, hair fibers, nothing gets transferred to them either. Or did it? Here's the thing. They only test DNA for the people they're looking for. So if they weren't looking for, if they were looking for somebody like Bryan Kohberger, guess what? They didn't find anything of Bryan Kohberger because he wasn't the guy that pinned him down.
Bingo. Right. What I'm curious now to see you guys is how many other people now follow suit with Howard and start jumping off and saying, I got to tell you guys, I know what I said, but I just don't think Brian could do
Oh
this
my
on his
God,
own now.
Well,
I swear,
you
I
know,
swear.
as an
Go ahead,
author,
Rob. Yeah.
as an author, this pisses me off because I write fiction, okay?
Right.
But my historical fiction has more research and more accuracy in it than anything that that man wrote in his book. And that's my opinion and
Yes, ma'am.
whatever. And I can speak to this as a fellow author. And like I
Right.
said, I write fiction, but I have to make sure that my facts match up with history, okay? And for this dude to have written this, and now all of a sudden he's trying to backtrack when he's taken so much creative license with a book that was supposed to be based on fact, I think not, sir. I think not.
I challenge him to write another
Oh
book
yeah. Oh, he
and
will.
Right
retract
on.
everything you
Watch.
said.
I think that's what I watch him write another book now.
I
Here's
have
what
to
really
ask.
happened.
I have to ask. This is not an accusation. It's a how does the world really work? I want to ask you guys this thought. Maybe Robin, being in the author world, maybe knows. I don't know, but so Howard Blum's a pretty well-known name. So when Howard Blum comes out to Moscow, Idaho, to research a book, and he wants to talk to Moscow Police Department and do some interviews and talking to people, do you think that his name carries weight and they might be willing to sit down with him and help shape the narrative of that book that he's researching? So, when the author comes in and Howard Blum's in town and all of a sudden they're like, oh, Howard Blum's writing a book on this case and he'd like to meet with us. Is there kind of a symbiotic relationship where Howard wants to get details that only the cops would know or only the university would know? So he has confidential people that'll talk to him and feed him information. Then he writes this very well-written book that seems like he knows a lot of shit, but is it maybe possibly controlled narrative itself? Because he literally is talking to people who have a vested interest and make sure the story goes down a certain way when the book comes out. I don't know. I don't know how.
Have to have approached the university. I think that's how, because those cops, most of them are not going to know who the hell Howard Blum is.
Yeah.
Right. Like, unless they read a lot of his stuff back in the day when he was writing articles and stuff like that, unless they were into that, I'm going to assume it came in through somehow through the university. And I have, this is just pure speculation on my part, but just kind of knowing how things in the publishing industry tend to work. I'm going to say that Scott Green would know who this guy was before anybody else, or somebody else higher up at the university level. So that's how, and whoever that is could say, yeah, okay, I'm in with the, I can get interviews with the cops and they'll talk to you as long as, you play nice and, that kind of thing. But as you know, Lee, with what you just experienced, for Howard Blum just to walk around the neighborhood and everything else, I don't know. Just knocking on doors of people,
It's
or
fucking horror. Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah,
it's horrible.
I find
it was a gag order.
It's funny. It's funny
they violated the gag order. It's a bunch of horse shit.
Yeah,
and shame on them. I mean, besides the other 1,000 things that happened in this case, they really broke the integrity of the case. They really broke it. They completely contaminated the jury pool, and it's disgusting. So even if there was a damn trial, he wasn't going to have, the jury pool was completely contaminated.
I highlighted this user's Mackenzie Ray's comment because we've joked before. If you were to pitch this story to a production company, hey, I got this murder mystery story and I want to write it, and here's what happens. We've joked, they would probably say that's not believable. Like, nobody's going to buy that. It doesn't pass the sniff test. It's not right. The whole case as we've been presented it, we've joked might not even be taken seriously by someone. They'd be like, that nobody's going to believe that story.
Right. Right. I wouldn't. If you threw this at me and I had no clue what you were talking about, I'd just look at you and laugh like, nah, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
One. Amanda's question is something I asked you about tonight.
Yeah, this is a huge thing. This is bullshit. That violates the whole crime scene in itself, which we already knew the fuckery that went on with this. You do not do that. I mean, it's like unprecedented. You don't just change numbers and skip over stuff. I mean, looking at these pictures, that this bunch of evidence that was just released. I mean, we see there are pictures that clearly have. It's not even like microscopic. Some of them we can clearly visible see with our eyes, blood on the wall, and they're not even testing it.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what?
I want to talk about the renumbering, but I want to make sure I don't get it wrong. So I want to tell people I'm going by memory, and I could be wrong. But it seemed to me a large part of what we read when we were reading the whole forensics document that was recently released, and it talked about basically what it was is Idaho's forensics expert was rebutting the defense's forensics experts, because the forensics expert said the Idaho expert's wrong, that she concluded X, Y, and Z about particular stains in the house. And I was there and saw it in situ. I saw it as it was, and it had been altered before she came into the scene by Detective Talbot, who diluted the sample with water and did some testing. And then Detective Payne came and renumbered those. I don't know if it was the same ones. That's the part that I'm like, and so I'm thinking to myself, literally they're saying somebody came in, messed with the sample, renumbered the sample, and then let Idaho in to process the scene. And she said, well, I was just going off the numbers I had. I wasn't aware that they had been renumbered and that the other detectives had sampled the scene before I got there. And I thought to myself, well, part of the reason would be, in my opinion, about why you would renumber them is because when you take the sample, you probably give a description of what it looked like, right? And the description's changed because you've diluted it now, right? So you'd have to change the description. So if you change the numbering, you could just avoid that it looked differently before you fucked with it. Like, I don't know, maybe that's crazy, but
and why wouldn't she have seen it in situ? Why were the cops moving shit around and everything before the forensic team even got in there?
I mean, look what I mean in that whole autopsy thing we got. I mean, that whole paragraph there about how someone just said, oh, Xana's blood is on the table, and she just said, okay. She just took someone's word. Are you fucking kidding me? I couldn't believe that.
So I think this question right here, and there's JJ from State of the Deep. He'll join us on screen. Well, we'll put him on right now, but I want to address this question. Hey, how you doing tonight, by the way? Thanks for joining us.
Howdy.
What's up?
I was gonna say, I thought you were muted because it looked like you were talking and you weren't saying anything. Before I answer this question, do you have anything you want to say? Because I know you just joined us. You're coming in a little bit later. I know you said you were going to be a little behind tonight, so it's good to see you. Do you have anything going on in your life before I take us off on this question?
Well, I listened to your video from earlier today about Howard Blum, and all I'm going to say about that is, because I know you were talking about it, I said, as soon as I read his book, I said, this guy's a hack. I was posting it on Reddit. I'm like, this guy is a hack. Enough said.
Yeah,
good call, Joe. Good call.
Yeah. And look, I mean, yeah, we'll get back to him in a second. I just wanted to address this real quick question. I don't know that this was the question. What would cause so many people, I'm going to assume, to participate in the type of corruption that Cy Ray is indicating? I'm assuming you're talking about the lying about the cast data, lying about the timing advance records, lying about what direction Kohberger was going in that night. Why would so many people work so hard to convict Bryan Kohberger of something if he really didn't do it? Why would there be so many people hell-bent on it? And I think for us, the closest answer we've ever gotten to date is, hey, I got something to tell you. One of the victims was a CI. If a CI got killed in that house and they were a confidential informant for the police, it changes a lot of why people are trying to cover up what really happened that night. And and we've speculated that if that was the case, this would be a reason for the fuckery. This would be a reason for the lies. This would be a reason for not wanting to tell everybody what really happened. And then we found out on a surprise drop, hey, here's body-worn camera footage where someone tells Captain Lanier, hey, didn't know if you knew this, but one of the victims was a CI. And I'm like pissed herself on that show. Like, there it is. We thought that it would have to be the answer.
It makes almost everything make some kind of sense now.
Yeah.
Right.
Did you guys hear Pavarotti's take on that?
I've
Yeah,
been getting
yeah, we're
people
gonna.
summarizing it. What's your take on Pavarotti's take? Tell us.
Well, I mean, he was trying to whitewash it.
Yeah.
He was trying to
Yep.
say, well, he could have said, and he gave a couple of different scenarios of what he could have said. Like one of them was, one of the victims was Sigma Chi.
Okay.
That's how he tried to spin it, and I went, oh, I think I'm starting to think more and more my suspicions about Pavarotti are true.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know he said that. I from my memory, there's no way he said Sigma Chi. That's not the same as CI. Like
No.
that's not even
Dude,
close.
it's like, come on, man.
Listen, I said this the other night because somebody else said that to me too. When I was 5 years old, my mama taught me something called syllables. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you hear this, and I'm not trying to be stupid here, folks, Sigma Chi is 3.
Yes.
CI is 2.
It's 2. Yeah.
So when you don't hear things clearly, and I'm being real as hell, folks, I still do this to this day.
Yes.
I listen. And I listen for the syllables that are spoken in a word to try to understand things when we can't hear them. And I'm telling you, Sigma Chi is 3 syllables. CI is 2. I heard CI. So I'm sorry. That's just fact.
So I wanted to address something specific that's been talked about going around. I'm not gonna attack any creator because we don't do that here. But it is, we do have a lot of people that join in, and we like to give receipts and give fact-based stuff. So first off, there's a little confusion about CIs, confidential informant. So I have firsthand knowledge. I have firsthand knowledge of, with my job, I work for NYPD, and I know of confidential informants who do not have a criminal background. So I'm just going to read something real quick to you guys, not a long thing. So does a confidential informant have to have a criminal background? So this is a common myth, especially in true crime discussions. Confidential informants can come from many different backgrounds, including people with no criminal record, people with minor or past offenses, people currently facing charges, true, civilians with access or proximity to a target, this happens a lot, employees, associates, neighbors, friends, or acquaintances, people motivated by money, fear, revenge, or cooperation rather than legal leverage. Why people think CIs must be criminals? Because many CIs are criminals, since they already operate in criminal environments. They have access to law enforcement needs, and they can be pressured or insensitized through charges or sentencing considerations. But that's practical convenience, not a legal requirement. There's no federal or state law that requires a CI to have a criminal record, be charged with a crime, or be under investigation. So I just wanted to spell that out and be clear that is not an opinion. It is not a theory. So in many cases, especially involving with drugs and stuff like that, does it happen a lot? Like people who are arrested and they get turned, and people do have criminal histories? Absolutely. Yes, it does happen, but it's not a requirement. There are plenty.
Yeah. And we need to point out, Lana discovered a public document that shows the University of Idaho had an agreement with Moscow Police Department to embed police officers with people in the fraternities and sororities as confidential sources to talk about what's happening in the Greek life. So that could easily be described as a CI, somebody who's talking to law enforcement on the private.
And I could tell you from firsthand knowledge, is I know with the amount of experience and of how long I've been with NYPD. Here in NYPD, we have IAB, which is Internal Affairs Bureau. Okay, their main job is to investigate potential corruption or crimes that officers are involved in or possibly involved in. Mm-hmm. What they try to do, they actually do get it. Usually every single command or every precinct that's part of NYPD, they have someone that is a confidential informant, someone that will give them info, that they can't easily get.
Yeah,
So-
and I want to be clear too. Like, we talked about this a little bit before we went live tonight. We
Yeah.
don't want to trash any other
No.
YouTubers or channels or whatever.
that's
No,
absolutely not.
no,
All I want to say is this: if a person, and I won't even say who said it, but if a person said the proof that none of the kids were in the house, the victims in the house were a CI, was because none of them had any criminal history, that is incorrect. That's what we're
False.
saying. So it doesn't mean you're a liar. It's just that if the basis for your statement, none of them could have been a CI because they didn't have a criminal background, I would counter that's an incorrect statement. You don't have to have a criminal background to be a CI, and we have a document that shows why they would be considered CIs because of the contract between Moscow and the university. So I would disagree with that respectfully.
That's with all due respect. Yes, absolutely.
Respectfully.
Another thing too is we don't know if that was a major party house. We don't know if somebody in that house got busted or not.
Right.
We may not know. They could have, somebody in that house could have been even peripherally. I'm not even saying like the person that ended up being a CI was involved in something, but they could have been with somebody else in a situation where they could have been implicated because they were involved in it peripherally. And they were like, screw this. I'm not, and they got an opportunity to be a CI. Now, that's not what I tend to think happened, but that is also a reality. I've been saying this from day one.
Definitely.
If there is an operation involved of any kind, that could be a drug enforcement operation, whatever. A lot of what we've been told could be completely false, right? So there could have been somebody in the house that did in fact get busted for something, but we just don't know about it because they became a CI.
Or even one of the theories I said when I heard that whole thing, I said, it may even be that somebody we all know that Moscow does not take reports. Okay. So,
right.
it could have been that somebody was stopped or got hooked on something, hooked by something, PD guard grabbed somebody on something and they said, listen, I know you're students. I know this, I know that, so on and so forth. I'm going to give you a break. You help me out and you work for me. And this never happened.
Yes.
Things like that happen all the time. You guys can
Yeah.
ask one. I'm telling you.
Yeah, we do it all the time. There would
in
be
no
the police
arrest record.
department. So we do stuff like that all the time because that's intel is the best way to get guns, right? We're always looking to get the higher violence. Not that other crimes don't matter. Everything matters, obviously.
But if you can cut it off at the source, then all the trickle down violence goes with it.
If we get a lower, we get someone that has a lower crime, and we can kind of get them to give us info that gets guns.
Yeah,
we may make a deal. It happens all the time. All the time.
I wanted to address this comment, and actually I'm hoping Dago will weigh in mostly on it because of the way we talked about this beforehand. That Lana has said today that she can confirm Dylan was the CI that we're talking about, and that was repeated to me by several people that Lana said Dylan's the CI that they're talking about. Dago, can you clarify for
Lana
us
made a statement. She said, listen, she was talking about something. I watched it on her show, and she said, long time ago, somebody told me that Dylan used to be a CI back in Boise for, the stuff that her boyfriend was involved in, so on and so forth. And it was a credible source. And she goes, you can quote me on that, so on and so forth. She said what she said, guys. Lana's Lana. You guys know Lana. It is what it is. And that's how I took what she said. Whether she thinks it or doesn't think it, she says what she says, what she thinks and what she feels. That's all it is, period. Yeah,
and I
not
feel
a big deal. She didn't stress it. She didn't try to reiterate it. She didn't say anything else. That's all she said. So
yeah, and I think that's kind of like one of those classic examples of telephone, right? She said something and is getting blown out of proportion because it sounds like what you said is not the same thing as Lana said. I can confirm Dylan was a federal agent for CCI. Not what she said. And that's how it's getting
a
related to me.
Statement. One time she stated it. That's that, and she said you can quote me. End of story. Lana doesn't need to prove anything or nothing. That's just how she is,
And it could be the reality is it could have been more than one. I mean,
yes.
I mean, I'm not saying that's what I think per se, but it's very possible.
The info is there. They said that they have someone from each sorority or each fraternity. So they're going to try to get someone. And there were people in that house from different sororities, different, definitely.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just
Oh,
a general
welcome.
statement she made. Somebody else had told her, and the story. So yeah, 100%.
I just was mentioning somebody's from Alberta, Canada. I love it when people tell me the locations are coming from. It's always fun seeing the international audience and all over the States and stuff like that. By the way, there was a moment when I thought I was muted and my wife stepped into the room. I hope you guys didn't all hear that conversation. If you did you
Yeah,
guys hear
man,
that?
I can't believe you were talking about that on stream.
Yeah, come on, man. No, I didn't hear anything.
We'll have Amanda clip it. Yeah.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
I guess time to put. Never mind. I almost made an inappropriate joke. I'm not going to go there. But anyway, so I apologize if anybody heard that conversation. But I thought I had my mic muted, and I was like, "Oh crap, my mic was wide open during that conversation."
We've all done it. Honestly, it happens.
I've had some embarrassing moments on live microphones. I'll tell you that much. Anyways, so. We got a lot of the big ones that I wanted to talk about out of the way early, which is Howard Blum's probably the biggest thing. I mean, it was so funny. What's really cool about running a true crime show, you're probably the same way, Dago, is people are firing shit at me all the time. Did you see Howard Blum just came out with this?
Yes.
I had that article sent to me by like 5 people this morning.
All day long, all day. I get emails after emails nonstop.
Yeah. And even Harsh Reality did on it, and it's like, so it's kind of fun because it's harder now to miss the big news because everybody's going to make sure I know about the big news. So thank you all, by the way.
That's how it works out here. We all talk about it in different ways because it gets thrown at us in different ways. So yeah. So I'm pretty excited about it. I did when I heard about that, I did a whole video late last night and aired this morning on the Howard Blum thing and how I felt about it. And it's been a while since I did a video I was that pissed off about.
The video was great.
He was coming off of his Seahawks when he was fired up.
I told them I seen it. I said, that's what I'm talking about today. I was talking to my mods in chat or in Discord this morning. I said, I'm probably gonna go off because it kind of made me mad. And one of my mods was the voice of reality as always, and said, but you gotta give him props in some way, Dago, because he is admitting in some sense. And I said, I'll throw a butt on there at the end of it, of course. Yeah. And I did. It was that, when I talked about it too, because I did the same thing. But at least he put it out there. He had the gumption to do that. Now, even though he's backpedaling 75 miles an hour down the road with it, it is what it is. You know what I mean? And I'm just waiting to see if there's another step above that comes out after this next. And I'm going to wait to see also how many people follow suit behind him. I'm curious to see how that plays out.
Well, he's going to end up on Megyn Kelly's show.
Yes. Yeah.
But I couldn't help thinking about the book Framed because we got the guy. So now we have to make the story still, even though I'm changing my tune, I still have to somehow fit.
Yes.
I still have to fit it. Now I got to change it, but it's not. Now there's another guy that's going to be added. Okay, Howard, who do you think it was?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I'm waiting on, JJ, to see if he comes forth with
who he thinks it is.
Who it could be now. Being that you said what you said, I'm guessing there may be another book, and it's going to be alternate suspect. You know what I mean?
Yes, of course.
That's really what I'm guessing.
But I don't know that Blum has the cojones to write a book about it until they actually arrest somebody else. Like when they arrest somebody else, he'll write the book about how this is how it happened. This is the new guy. And here's how I don't think he's going to come out with a speculation because he didn't with the Kohberger either. Kohberger was already arrested. So he just wrote a book about why Kohberger, they got it right. So
and he didn't even wait long enough
if they ever go after somebody else, then he'll write a book about, well, see, this is what I always thought. Here's the book on what, now is the case, but he'll wait for them to lead. I don't think he's going to come out with the book just guessing on it. But
these people kill me. I swear.
Or he'll double down on it. He's going to say, "See, I told you that there was something."
Yeah, there it is. Exactly.
So I'm trying to think of what other highlights there were from today. There was on my other cases, there wasn't a lot of highlights on my other cases. I do have. Go ahead. Yeah, got something, Dago?
I was gonna throw out there the Gonsalves family was supposed to do a live stream tonight, and I believe somebody sent me a statement they made that they may be waiting on that now because they stated in the statement that they a lot of people got through to them, and that made them think twice about what they were going to do, and now they may not do it at all. Who knows? So that was kind of
so got through to them and made them rethink the idea of going on social media and going on live streams and stuff like that. Yeah.
I guess that's how I took it. Yeah.
That's very interesting. I wish that's very interesting. I mean, yeah, I wow, I'm like processing it live.
I'm sorry, I should have warned you. Yeah. It just came back to mind, and I was thinking about it a little while ago. Like, was it the people that got to them, or was it the attorney, or how did it work out? I'm curious.
Yeah, right. Like, and I don't want to speculate too much, not knowing the source of the thing, but it's very interesting.
Yeah.
I mean,
they said not tonight. They're rethinking it for now, so we'll see if it happens. I don't know.
Yeah. Fuck it, we'll do it live.
Right, there you go.
So,
there's a lot of money. There's a lot of money on the line.
Yes,
that'll change people's behaviors. If an attorney is like, no, you don't want to be making too much. Yeah, right. You don't want to ruffle too many feathers, because anything you say could weaken our position or whatever. Who knows? But I can just imagine an attorney getting in their ear and saying, don't do that.
Yeah, right. That's my thought too, JJ.
Right. I mean, it was one thing before the lawsuit against WSU. Like, it was one thing. The case was over. Bryan Kohberger pled guilty. Now they can tell all. They can go on every TV show in America, and they can talk all they want. But they refiled a lawsuit, and they reopened, and now there's litigation. And so, an attorney's going to be like, no, we've got open litigation in this case in which you could probably hurt your case. Because again, if it comes out through, I mean, this is me speculating, but if it comes out through everybody talking, that there's now questions about whether Bryan Kohberger did it alone. Like, maybe if some people start asking, gee, I don't see Bryan Kohberger had a motive to do it, so maybe he wasn't the one that had the primary. Like, if that starts coming out, then how do you sue the university for saying you didn't stop the killer when maybe he wasn't the killer? Maybe he was just brought in as a forensics guy to clean up the scene. Maybe not even that. Who knows? But again, if you start talking during open litigation, you potentially will hurt that case. So now we're back with open litigation, which, you know what? Now that I'm thinking live, what a great way to keep everything sealed. There's still open litigation. We can't talk about the case. Right. So no, all your public records requests, it's back on hold. There's open litigation that might be impacted by talking about it. So we get to seal everything for another fucking 5 years because it's an open case with open litigation. So
I knew they were going to do the Nancy Grace thing, but they weren't going to go live on like YouTube or TikTok or anything. They said.
You know what I was thinking too? I was kind of thinking back to things that the Gonzalez family had said in different stages throughout the case. And it makes sense to me now, really clearly, obviously, but along the way, I was wondering, all right, if he thinks there were more people involved and more than one weapon, what was the point where he changed his tune? Well, it's pretty obvious, because this is the guy that they caught. Right. So if he had an attorney, the Gonzalez family had an attorney. So they were probably like, look, there could be lawsuits down the road with this case if this guy gets convicted. So don't start talking about alternative people, because they don't have anybody else. And that'll weaken your position if you want to file a lawsuit against, say, WSU or University of Idaho, whoever it would end up being. But don't start trying to bring in alternative theories. Play the cards you're dealt, which is Bryan Kohberger. And I think he probably believes that there were more than one perpetrators in this case, but his attorney probably said, don't talk about that anymore.
Yeah, Howard, somebody, I think you asked, or somebody asked the rhetorical question, what changed Howard Blum's mind? And somebody posted the comments. Let's talk about it for a moment. Blum basically said it was the crime scene photos that changed his mind. His primary thing that came out was, I always felt like the timeline was a little too short for one person to do it. And I gave them the benefit of the doubt because they said they did test runs and that it physically could be done possibly. But he said that was under the assumption that they were methodical and they did everything right and nothing went wrong. And he said, now that I've seen the crime scene photos, there was nothing methodical about that, and all kinds of things went wrong. So now I don't think it's possible one person did it in 8 minutes. So what changed his mind was the crime scene does not look like it was methodical, and it looks like mistakes were made, and it looked like, as he said, it was a battleground. And so now he changes his mind. It wasn't a quick and dirty come in while everybody's sleeping, kill everybody while they're asleep, and got out. It went wrong. That house was a battlefield. So now he has to say, I don't think it happened the way that they said it happened.
And the problem with that whole thing is, and I said this then when that statement was made, there's no, the reenactments are stupid. Okay. I'm sorry. All due respect. They're just dumb because they did not do a realistic reenactment of the situation to try to prove it. They didn't add the self-defense that happened. Okay. The around the house situational stuff and all that stuff. They went in and did a very basic, I'm going to do this to you, and this is what's going to happen. It doesn't make sense. You can't do it that way and think that that's going to make that work. It doesn't work that way, folks.
No.
Yeah. At least two of them that I know of defended themselves to the death, folks. Okay.
At least two. Yeah.
That took time and a lot of effort and a lot of moving around. They didn't do any of that. So therefore, in my opinion, it's nowhere near accurate. Sorry.
No, yeah. it's a great point. Go ahead.
And I think, I mean, quite frankly, I think Blum and many other of these so-called journalists are grifters. They're not trying to get the truth. They're trying to push a narrative, of course. That's what the mainstream media does. Mm-hmm. And Blum, that's where he comes from. That's the world he comes from, the mainstream media. So
yeah, and
he's a grifter. Yeah. And to Cat's Mojo's point,
yeah, right,
and question, yes, I think he's also covering his ass, of course, but he wants clicks, and he is seeing how his whole book was based on a made-up narrative that he created in his head, and now that's being
he's got to get in front of it now, right?
Yeah, that's getting crushed by all the information that's been released. So he's covering his ass, but he's also trying to get back in the spotlight and get clicks. That's what grifters do, guys.
Yeah.
So it begs the question. We're talking about Howard Blum and his change of opinion because his change of opinion to me is a big deal, because this is a guy who went on multiple documentaries. His face was on multiple documentaries. They cited his book on multiple documentaries where he laid out the argument, Bryan Kohberger is the killer. Here's how he did it. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I felt when he changed his mind and said, you know what, based on the crime scene photos, now I'm not sure he did it, or he certainly didn't do it alone. It's news. But yet, as Cat's Mojo says, are we playing into his hand? Because now we're making him relevant again. Now where he was not being talked about and he was kind of dropping out of the limelight, the case is over, his documentaries are over. We're making him relevant again by talking about him, by him simply saying, hey, maybe I was wrong. Actually, what he said was, the irony is what he said was, I think the prosecutors got it all wrong.
Of course.
Now, of course, it wasn't him. It wasn't him. I think the prosecutors.
I was going to make notice of that. Right. He placed blame way away from him. It was the prosecutors, not him. So yes.
Yeah.
And anybody who writes
lack of research or know, pursuit of the truth, couldn't be that. It had to all be, Bill Thompson and the rest of the prosecuting team, of course.
And look, I can almost go down his logic trail if I was cover my ass kind of guy. I'd be like, I was just following their lead. I'm a researcher. I came in, I met with the prosecutor, I met with law enforcement. They told me this is how it went down, and I wrote a book about it. They led me wrong. The prosecutors were wrong. I was just writing the story they told me that it happened and trying to explain it to America. It's not my fault I got it wrong. I was just following their lead, and they were wrong. So when they get it right, I'll write the book on how they got it right.
But it's like he's supposed to be a so-called journalist.
Right.
Yeah. A journalist doesn't take what is spoon-fed to them and not question it. And I have to be honest, when I first listened to his audiobook, I couldn't get through it. I was like, this is fucking gross. And then eventually I came back to it because let me just see what this joker has to say. I mean, he was basically weaving a narrative. And oh, by the way, how convenient. I can't disclose any of my sources.
Right.
People wanted to get paid for information, and I wasn't going to do that.
Right.
And so, I mean, it was the biggest bunch of nonsense I've ever heard in my entire life. He basically did a what do you call it? Where it's dramatized. Like it's like
A
it was.
playwright.
Yeah, it was like fiction.
Yeah,
It was
100%.
like
Yeah.
ridiculous. I mean, God, people like
Maybe
that, man, have
trying
no
to audition
spine.
to write a Lifetime movie. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, is he going to be
Basically what he
collaborated on that
canceled.
Lifetime movie? What's going to happen now?
You
Yeah,
got to do
I think-
something to be in the spot. I mean, nobody's going to buy this book now, that especially now that he's made that statement, because it's not relevant now. Even the
Right.
people
No.
that believe in that are going to say, wait a minute, what? Why would I look into this? Why would I read this now? If you're saying that it's the opposition to what you wrote, no. You gotta find
unless,
something new.
and this would be pure speculation, unless he knows something on the inside that we don't know, and he knows the case is going to get reopened, and now he's setting up his book too, because
Wow.
maybe he already knows it's going to be reopened, and he's getting ready for his follow-up book, which is
That would be
we were
quite
all lied to, and here's what the truth really was.
That would be real interestingly, yeah.
And what I'll be paying attention to, if that does happen, is does he introduce into his next amazing work of fiction how it's going to be really necessary to have DNA databases and predictive policing in place so we can prevent this from
Mhm.
happening in the future.
Right. If we had just relied
Right.
on the science and not
Yep.
on bad investigative techniques, we would have got the right guy.
Good call, Joe.
Yeah.
Good call.
Yeah.
How about they learn to process a crime scene correctly? Let's start with the fundamentals.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And don't get me
I like
started on
this
whether the
title.
science was good, because the science wasn't good in the first place.
Right.
Yeah,
I
that's a
like
good
that.
call, Joe. I'm going to be
That's
looking.
a good. That's I like that.
Bullshit, the sequel.
Yeah.
Like I always say, guys, look at what happens after high impact events as a result of the event.
Right.
Because it's often very telling, and because power structures don't do things month to month, they do things year to year. They plan things out much more over a longer period of time rather than for immediacy, and that's why I always say that you'll see how things are shaped, and you'll really get a pic. For those of us that pay attention, you'll get a better picture of things.
Well, I mean, he may do something like Lee just said. That's an interesting thought, or he could just phase out of the spotlight and be gone.
Yeah. There's a story that my team made me aware of today. And I said I wasn't going to talk about it because I wanted to read it myself. And then I started to read it myself today, and I was like, oh my God, this is so deep and so hairy.
Yeah.
But now I'm rethinking it. I'm going to ask if you guys are aware of this. Are you guys aware of a case before the Supreme Court that is challenging plea deals that waive your right to appeals?
Yes,
and that
I am.
they're actually the Supreme Court's going to rule whether it's even ethical and allowable to waive your right to appeals.
Right.
And if that gets upheld or ruled on by the Supreme Court, how would that affect cases like this one, in which a person appealed and specifically said, I waive all my rights to appeals, which may be unethical in the first place?
It's a huge deal.
Right. Definitely.
Here I said I wasn't going to talk about it, damn it. And I'm talking about it, and I'm not prepared to talk about it.
You brought it up now.
Yeah, if SCOTUS votes in favor, so of course the petitioner, his name is Hunter. Of course, it has to be another name that if it votes in favor of Hunter, it could have huge ramifications. Then the whole the whole plea deal that BK did would be kind of null and void, would be out the window. So he wouldn't be completely free. Basically, he would have it. Basically, what would be set is he would have to go to trial. So then I guess the death penalty would be back.
I'm good with. I don't think they can bring the death penalty back, can they?
Well, I don't know. I don't know specifically, but I know that not just his case, but particular in BK's case, they would have to go through trial. It wouldn't just be like, oh,
Yeah.
he can't plea. He would have to go through trial. And
Right.
boy, would that be a shitstorm right now.
I'm all for that. Bring that trial on right now.
Huge. It's huge. It's coming up in the next few months, and the fact that it's going to SCOTUS, it's a big deal. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so for those who are interested in looking into that on their own, I will tell you, as I started to read that legal brief about the latest motion that was filed in it, it had so many big words in there that I had to look up in a dictionary to try to figure out what the fuck they were saying. I was like, I'm not prepared to comment on it when I got a good vocabulary. And they were using words in there. I'm like, what the hell did you even just say? Could you please break this down? And that's what I do. I try to break shit down in plain English. So until I can understand it, to break it down in plain English for you, I can't do it. But the case is, for those who are interested, Hunter versus United States, number 24-1063. I'll post that in here. By the way, they also referenced an Idaho case, believe it or not. Past Supreme Court precedent on the issue has been released on the Garza versus Idaho 2019 about a defendant that appealed, signed an appeal. So it sounds like the gist of that is that it has to do with, even if the defendant waives his right to his appeal, if the attorney doesn't file an appeal for them kind of thing, then that could be an ineffective assistance of counsel kind of thing. So there's like all kinds of moving parts to this. I'm not prepared to deal with it at all, but I thought if you guys are more versed than I do, maybe you can bring me up to speed live. But the point being is that there is apparently and I just did a simple ChatGPT request. Is there an ongoing review in the Supreme Court of waiving a person's appellate right or appeal rights? And they said, yes, this is being discussed right now by the highest court in the land, right? On whether or not a person can waive their right to appeal and whether that's ethical and legal to do in the first place.
Yeah. Right.
The two big questions that they're addressing, I took a photo of it. So it's one, whether the petitioner's knowing and voluntary waiver of his right to appeal on any ground other than ineffective assistance of counsel applies to an appeal challenging a condition of his future supervised release on due process grounds. And two, whether the district court's unobjected statement at the end of sentencing that petitioner had a right to appeal rendered the appeal waiver unenforceable.
And here's why I started to say I wasn't prepared. I'm going to try to say something I'm not prepared to say. That's awesome. Let's do it live. Okay, so part of the problem in the Hunter case is that, as I understand it, and I could be wrong, as I understand it, he had like 9 charges against him, 9 different charges. And they offered him a plea deal then that said, if you agree to one of the 9, we'll dismiss all the others. And so he agreed to a plea deal on one, and in exchange, they dismissed all other charges because he pled guilty to the one that they really wanted him on the most. And then he appealed the one. And they're basically saying, well, fuck you. We tossed out the 9 only because you said that you would plead guilty to the one, and now you're appealing the one. So if you're going to do that, we should put the 9 back on the table again. So all of that's at play, I think, as well.
Yeah, it's going to be wild. It really is.
Yeah.
What I'm curious to see is how that does play out. Like what one was saying is how will it, if it will, affect the Idaho 4 situation? Because at that point,
it definitely will.
Does it go retroactive on that aspect as well for any case like that?
Well, and I think so, because that was the little bit of the argument I read was the counter to why they were saying, please, Supreme Court, don't rule on this, is you don't understand the number of cases in America that are going to be impacted by that decision. If you say these appeals issues are wrong, then we're going to open up the floodgates to everybody getting out of prison, because they're all going to be like, hey, wait a minute, I had to plea out.
That'll be wild.
Right. And here, my question is, how much can Hippler stand in the way of an appeal? Because he's the one that has to approve it, disprove it, or whatever. Like, what would his role in that? Like, how would he even facilitate all that?
I think it depends on how it's appealed.
Yeah,
as well.
I think I have an answer to that, and I could be wrong. I'm not an attorney, but Hippler is a trial court judge. Appeals is a whole different court system. So it would go to an appellate court, and it won't be Hippler. So that's part of the thing. Is I don't think Hitler's involved because he's not at the appellate court level. It would go to an appellate court.
A
Yeah.
good thing.
You know what
Yeah.
we need, Lee? We need a show with Ali.
I know.
She would love this.
Yeah, for sure. She just doesn't have time. Holy crap,
I know,
she's so busy.
I know.
She's on.
I
TV all
was
the time
listening
now.
to the Custody Queens.
Yeah,
They did that. They were talking with Ron, their
Yeah.
appellate attorney, and it was kind of interesting because he talks about it in a very sort of down the middle, like he implies, he doesn't explicitly state it, that he implies that Kohberger's guilty.
yeah,
And they kind of go back and forth, and the girls, they kind of kick the ball back and forth a little bit. But
yeah,
it was interesting because I just listened to it today.
yeah.
And I got the impression that when he's talking about, because they were talking about the WSU lawsuit
Mhm.
Yeah.
and some of the things that are attached to it, involved in that lawsuit, like the whole police accusations that there was like sexual misconduct with
Yeah.
WSU campus police, using that as a pretext to say, well, if they didn't handle this properly, and then look, there's a precedent, they didn't handle any complaints about Bryan Kohberger properly. So it sets the stage, right, for the lawsuit. But Ron talks about it. I don't know if you guys saw that video, but
I didn't.
he's pretty much kind of, at least in my opinion, I like to get other people's opinion, that he thinks Kohberger is the guy. That was just me reading
That's
between
what
the
I
lines.
gathered too. Yeah. I'm gonna ask.
Yeah, and
I think I'm getting together with them. They're joining me next Tuesday. The Queens are. I think I'm gonna ask them because I just wrote that down. What their thoughts are on that question and the other one before that too, to see what they come up with for sure.
yeah,
Yeah,
and I
just
think,
it's interesting,
yeah, I think to be fair, I mean, I think Ron thinks a lot of the way a lot of us think, which is that even if Kohberger's the guy, you still have to do things legal, right? So
Yeah.
if they violated constitutional rights and our civil liberties, that's not okay. Even if so Ron could or I don't know if he does or not, but he could have the opinion Bryan Kohberger did it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that Ron doesn't think there's some fuckery involved in the case.
That's what I was pointing out here in a minute. Good to see you tonight, Sleuty, by the way. That's what I was worried about, is if it gets remanded for a new trial, it's going to come back to Hitler, or is it going to be
at the trial court level?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's what I was worried about.
Yeah, I guess that's what I was thinking was it, it's just going to be, Hitler
My
2.0.
guess, my guess is this. I'm just going to guess, but my guess is, let's say Kohberger won the right to be retried.
Yeah.
The chances that Hitler will get it the second time are slim to none in my guess. First of all, it went to a panel of judges and they had to decide what judge was going to get the case. The pressure of the public would be so enormous to not have Hitler be the guy picked for the second round.
Probably.
I don't see how that's even possible. So I personally, I think it would be a ridiculous, and nobody would go for that. Like half of America would start to go, what the fuck? The same judge that's accused of having a bad trial in the first place is going to oversee it again?
And I think the defense would probably throw some kind of a fit over that as well.
Hell yeah. They would demand it be moved and out of that court system. And yeah,
it would turn out ugly. I hope to God. But I do remember something that was stated. They did it. Jeff Nye. Is it Nye? Jeff. Yes. Whatever Nye, I always called him Bill Nye the Science Guy, but whatever that Nye guy was, I remember him making a statement that he was talking about appeal processes and stuff like that, and he made a blatant period, and it was kind of shitty the way he said it too, that appeals or something with one of the appeal processes or something would go through his office, and he said we would just kick it right back out.
Yeah, right. We're just gonna we wouldn't even take seriously any appeal on
exactly the Nye guy. Yeah, the Nye guy, right?
And the book framed in that book frame, guys, right? That comes up in that book, how the appeals are denied,
right?
And
based on bias.
I wanted to get, this is kind of a flashback, but I wanted to get your your opinions about something. You know, all the talk about the Elantra, right? And it's the fog lights and this, that, and the other. So you have that car that's supposedly, what, 2015 was it? Elantra? Is that what they zeroed in on? So that
it was originally a 2011 to 13, and then they changed it to a 15
Right.
because Kohberger's car was a 15. Yeah.
Right.
And don't forget the fog lights, Joe.
Yeah. The car that was speeding away, right, at the end, and at the end of the alleged times that the crime was committed, the crimes were committed. Are you guys 100% confident that that is an Elantra?
No.
No, not even close.
No.
And so here's the thing that I was kind of running through in my head, and I acknowledge that I'm flashing back to old stuff.
That's okay.
People have talked about in the past that they believe that it was WSU, somebody at WSU that implicated Kohberger, that gave his name.
Yeah.
Right. So I want to just touch on something and connect it to what I believe. And I still believe that Kohberger is in some capacity, he was working with law enforcement. I still believe this, but obviously I can't prove it. But my gut instinct tells me that he was inserted into this because they needed to have somebody, and they didn't want it to come out that somebody, due to things that they had a hand in, that 4 people were murdered.
Yeah.
Because of an operation that they were involved in, and they needed to get somebody. And again, I'll say this. Everything we know about Kohberger could be false if this was an operation, meaning it could have been, they inserted him into it to cover something else up. And so I'm not even 100% sure that was an Elantra. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not even sure about that.
Right.
This is an issue that is like, it's one we've talked about. It's old hat. It's done, whatever. Everybody talks about the car, whatever, that not being his car. I just have a feeling if so many things have been horseshit, because once you start covering your tracks, then to what end will you go to continue to cover your tracks?
Right.
Will you call on somebody, or will you frame somebody? I would say yes.
Yeah.
But if that wasn't even an Elantra, I mean, the lights are all washed out, and it's difficult in that main photo of the car coming and going from King Road. I'm not even sure that that's definitely an Elantra.
Right.
No, I'm not either.
No, I have never
great
been.
doubt
To be honest
about
with you.
But they would counter, why are we still talking about it? Because he's already confessed to it. So why are we arguing about whether it was his car or not? He said it was.
Right.
Well, but if he's working, because look, this is how I won't go too long on this, but if he's working with either the feds or law enforcement, right? We know that's the field that he wanted to get into, right? So they needed someone to get pulled into the mix to cover their tracks. And he gets told, look, this is a big deal. But you're going to be you're in the mix now, right? We're going to insert you into this whole thing. And the reason why I keep saying that is I still believe that him being pulled over twice for some goofy thing, like you were following too closely, the chances of that happening 2 times in a really short amount of time, I believed, and I've believed this all along, it was a way to insert him into the public consciousness. So it's like, oh, look, here's the guy, here's the car. And I just think that, to me, people would say, well, that's crazy. Who would agree to get, locked up and go through all this legal shit? But you never know. When there's big money behind it, you never know what someone in his position could have been promised.
Yeah.
Right.
Very good point. Very good point.
I mean, there's the school if they needed this solved quickly, and he had already had interactions with law enforcement in some way, shape, or form, he could have been brought in by law enforcement to that program at WSU. We don't know. I just keep going back to that, and I just think that this is part of the reason why I still feel strongly that he's somehow connected to law enforcement, and I have no way to prove it. And like I always say, well, I'm not going to know unless somebody comes forward and spills the beans.
Yeah. Right.
So there's two things I want to address. I wanted to address, it's been a while now, the Richard Allen's case going back to Fran Gull if he wins an appeal for a retrial. And then I wanted to address the Idaho 4 thing again. So it's kind of bouncing back and forth on an issue of false information I got, but I want to share it with people. So let's talk real quick about Richard Allen. We'll bounce back to Idaho 4. In Richard Allen's case, his case is being appealed. Fran Gull oversaw the trial. Richard Allen was convicted of the murders of Abby and Libby and got convicted like 130 years in prison or whatever. And his lawyers have appealed it. That's in an appellate court completely out of Fran Gull's reach, and she'll have nothing to do with that appellate court decision. Having said that, the question gets asked, well, if the appellate court says he is granted a retrial, will it go back to Fran Gull? For those who are afraid of that, I will say this: Fran Gull has announced that she will not run for re-election at the end of this year. So it's going to take time for the appellate court to make that decision. It'll take time for that trial to be rescheduled. The likelihood, first of all, Fran probably would not choose to oversee a trial that she's already said, I'm not going to run for a re-election. I'm not going to run. So I don't think it's going to end up in Fran Gull's lap, for those who are thinking It's going to end up right in Fran Gull's lap if he does win appeal. But
well,
thank the Lord. Thank the Lord.
Is alive and well, because her daughter's running to take her place.
It could end up in her daughter's court, though. However, it really could end up in her daughter's court. Yeah, sure. But you know what? We have to keep people. We have to. By the way, my parents and I are very different. I think differently than my parents. So you can't assume that a child is going to be a carbon copy of their parent. In fact, a lot of times we rebel and we're very different than our parents. So, we can't say necessarily that going to her daughter means it's a fucked trial, because she may think very differently than her mother on things. So we don't know that. Right.
Yeah.
So very true.
I wanted to point out something on Kohberger's trial that really, really caught my attention for a second, and I about peed myself, and it turned out to not be true. So now I question, do I run the risk of confusing people, telling you what was untrue that was said to me, and have you get all excited like I did for a second, like, holy shit, that makes total sense, when I'm going to tell you it's not true. So I don't know. I guess I'm going to do it because I just teased it. So remember, Payne said on the stand in Bryan Kohberger's case, under oath, talking to Ann Taylor, the first day they ever heard Bryan Kohberger's name in relation to this case was December 19th,
right?
After the murders. December 19th was the first time they'd heard Bryan Kohberger's name in association with the trial, with this case. We later found a document that Idaho accidentally released that showed Bryan Kohberger's name as a suspect in the case on December 5th. And I said, holy shit, under oath, he said they didn't even know Bryan Kohberger's name until the 19th of December, but he's on a December 5th as a suspect in the case. So who lied? Mm-hmm. Now, here's what somebody said that was interesting. What they said was, and it's not true. So let me say, I don't believe it's true. What they said was Bryan Kohberger's car, the white Elantra that Bryan Kohberger owned, was registered to his father, Michael Kohberger, when he came out to Washington State. There's a big deal made in the papers that Bryan Kohberger changed his license plates from Pennsylvania to Washington State. You remember that? And they tried to imply that this was part of his covering up his tracks. He was switching his license plates because they were looking for a Pennsylvania plate or whatever. And they tried to make it look like a proof of guilt. What they said was Bryan Kohberger did that change of plate on December 18th, and it was the 19th that they picked him up as the lead suspect because it hit on their radar. Bryan Kohberger had just registered a car from Pennsylvania in Washington State, and that's what drew their attention, and that's how his name got on their radar. Now, here's what's wrong about that on multiple fronts. Bryan Kohberger submitted the change of the vehicle on November 18th, not December 18th, and it was in his name, not his father's name. So every part of that became untrue. But I got like, holy shit, is that how they got Bryan Kohberger's name on the 19th? Was because he just submitted his plates? But it's not true. But I want you to understand, those are some of the stuff that sometimes I have to vet behind the scenes, because I'm getting all these, you know, I get all these people giving me information. And I'm like, holy crap, that's a bombshell in a way. If Bryan Kohberger's car was registered with his dad, and only when he moved it over to Washington State that they said, oh shit, what's this? We got an out of towner that just registered the plates. And, you know, but that's not how it happened based on my research. Now, if you guys disagree with me, let me know, but that's what I just wanted to share with you.
No, I agree with you.
But it got me kind of worked up for a second. I was
like, of course. I will say though that I do agree. I've seen many people say this too. I do agree that somebody or in some entity or organization of people from WSU may be very responsible for tipping off about Bryan Kohberger, in my opinion. That's truly an honest feeling I have at this point now.
Yeah.
And you know what? What was Kohberger? What was one of the tracks that he was on for his education? It had to do with predictive criminology.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the reason I keep bringing that up is just because often things are used to forward agendas, and if a major event happens, that it's like, oh shit, you know, shit's gonna come out about this that we don't want to get out. If we can, you know, then other people higher up the ladder are inserted into the mix to try to help cover tracks or whatever. And on top of that, if you look into the NIJ funding, it's not directly related, but there are connections to Othram Labs, peripheral connections between the NIJ funding and Othram Labs. So it's not a direct, as things often are not direct, but there are, you can, if you trace there are connections.
And that's what a lot of his research, that some of the papers that he wrote had to do with that predictive policing.
Oh, so, yeah.
I mean, we covered one of them on, I covered one with Robin on one of the Sunday shows. He said that there's so much information all over about sexual crimes. We have all these databases, and he kind of wanted to kind of research about burglaries and about other kind of crimes. And that's basically what he was getting into. What can be done to kind of sort of stop the other crimes that there doesn't seem to be a lot. So that Yeah.
I said, don't you understand that he was researching that because he was trying to find out how to do the crime? I mean, it couldn't be because his chosen profession was criminology. He was looking into those things because he was trying to find out how to do the crime.
And for all the people like that in the chat, maybe who you probably heard me say this shit before, but why I keep bringing this up is because when there's one piece of fuckery, maybe two, you can say, well, there's bad policing, shitty investigation, et cetera, et cetera. But when there's a never-ending stream of inconsistencies and information that comes out that proves the original theories to be false, in my opinion, it tends to indicate that is not by accident.
Right.
And then, I don't want to hear about Occam's razor to everybody.
Yeah, right.
Occam's razor is not a million inconsistencies and things that don't add up.
And I want to point out another couple of, I know we beat a lot of these ideas over and over again, but along the idea, because even Howard Blum, we're talking a lot about Howard Blum today, even Howard Blum in his new piece indicated that why would Kohberger have picked that place in the first place? If you're because it was a busy neighborhood with lots of people and there was lots of cars outside. It's disingenuous to have picked that as a random act of violence because it's just too dangerous of a place. Why would you pick it? And I've said that as well. You wouldn't pick that as a place to do just I'm just going to do this because I want to do it kind of thing. I think part of the reason why it was done in a risky place with a bunch of people there is because, and I'm just going to lay it out there, whoever the real target was, that was one of the only opportunities they had to get them. They had to do it that night. It was one of the only times they had to get them. So they had to take a risk with other people there, because otherwise they would have maybe they would have maybe laid a better trap. They would have laid and waited and found a better time or whatever. But the reason why it happened then was because they were on a short fuse, and it was one of the only times they were going to get to pull that off with somebody being there that was supposed to be there that night.
That's one of the main reasons why I keep looking back over at Kaylee, unfortunately, for many reasons. That's one of the big ones right there, truly.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, how coincidental would that have to be? I mean, I'm not a statistics expert, but I did study statistics in college, and I'm sure the statistics nerds out there can chime in. The probability that of all these different things lining up and then all these subsequent inconsistencies, I just think it'd be statistically almost impossible for them all to happen by accident.
Yeah, I don't even think of the word coincidence in this case anymore.
No, that question, why would someone help solve their own crime? Well, that would go along exactly with what JJ has been talking about. He's been spelling out. If he was involved with the FBI or a big, one of these government agencies, and he's complicit, and he's doing his job, and he's part of it. This could all be about. I mean, as like a side note, look what's going on with Akram Labs. Look what's happening with that. They're trying to insert themselves now in all these different cases, and John Benet Ramsey in this case and that case. You have to look sometimes at the bigger picture. If he's part, this could be all about trying to push a further program down the line. So
right.
Yeah. And then, of course, if you want to pull mainstream narrative, you would say, well, the reason Bryan Kohberger was helping solve his own crime is because he thought he was so fucking smart. He was going to show them that he can pull off the perfect crime and even give them leads, and they still couldn't catch him because it was this giant game of cat and mouse between a mastermind criminal who, by the way, mastermind couldn't remember to not bring his own cell phone to the crime scene or drive his own car to the crime scene.
And left the knife sheet there too,
and leave the knife sheet behind.
I mean, I just think that I think anybody out there that thinks for themselves and can look at things without emotion, because I can look at different theories and I'm not set on one thing and this has to be it. You have to be able to look at the plausibility of different things, but I focus more on the inconsistencies and what are the chances of all of them happening in this one case simultaneously.
By the way, Amanda just brought up a point. Thank you, Joe, for that. By the way, I don't mean to derail you, but my brain works this way. If I read the forensics documents correctly, blankets were pulled over Ethan. Yeah. Blankets were pulled over Kaylee and Maddie. Xana was on the floor, not covered. And again, I've told you, and Joe knows this. Joe's into the whole forensic psychology. Like there's a psychology when people kill people about when they cover bodies and when they don't cover bodies and what it means and stuff like that. So the fact, if it's a fact, that 3 of the bodies were covered in blankets after they were killed would suggest something, maybe. I don't know. It's just food for thought. Why were victims? Why was a blanket put on top of the victims after they were mutilated? If that's what happened, but not with Xana.
To me, that shows conscience and caring, possibly from somebody that knows the victims personally. That's what that always led to for me personally. Or the only other side I see to it is that it was somebody maybe that it would have to be remorse, but that would be truly my only option as far as that goes, that somebody has remorse because they know the victims and they're close to them, in my opinion.
Right. I mean, I don't want to I say I don't want to speculate, and yet I'm going to speculate. An example, let's say one person was intended to be killed and the rest were collateral damage that
Collateral.
you didn't mean to do, a person might feel guilt for killing the people who died that they weren't intending to get killed.
Definitely.
So that might cause remorse for somebody, like, I'm ashamed that I did this to other people because really the only person I came for was this person, or it's the other, like, I loved this person and I killed them, and now I feel ashamed that I did this, and I don't want to look at my own horrific crime, so I'm going to cover them up because I can't deal with what I just did, kind of thing.
Right.
There's lots of reasons, but it does say something about the psychological profile of a person if they took time to cover the bodies after they were cut up, then that means something. If they took time
that's two other really important things that speaks to, is that the time that it took to carry out all these crimes, number one. Number two, it gives insight into who was killed last, because Xana was not covered up.
Yeah.
Right. It could be like she was the last one killed and they just were trying to get out of there.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't have time to cover her up because they thought they were going to get caught or something happened, and then they had to get out of there, because it wouldn't make sense to, unless you really want to get into the psychology of it, to leave her uncovered and then go and cover all the other ones after her. You would think that there would be, at least in my opinion, it would give some kind of an indication about order of death or order
think about
of attack.
this. Think about this, Joe. I'm working this out live in my head, and it's just, we're theorizing, we're theory crafting. That's all we're doing. But think about this. They indicated out of all the victims, Xana was the only one who was upright. Everybody else was in the bed and had no indication that they were ever any position other than in the bed. So if the killer came in, let's work this through. If the killer came in and killed 3 people in their beds, and Xana surprised them and horrifically screamed when she just saw a big, huge murder screen, and then that person freaked out and had to kill Xana unexpectedly and bail unexpectedly because they weren't intending it, that could explain everything. Like they came in, they killed 3 people, they covered them up, and then Xana comes in and walks in on the scene unexpectedly, freaks out, and it becomes a fight. And then he doesn't have time to cover that up. He's just like, I'm fucking out of here. Like everything just went to shit. Like everything was going fine until I got interrupted by the last person. So that could explain something.
There's another scenario too that we've all talked about. If some of them may have been, again, I'm hypothesizing, killed outside of the house, and Xana may not have, it could have been while they were going into the house, and Xana was not right there when it happened. She could have been at, 2 doors down at a party or something or whatever. And then she comes back and finds these people doing that after they're already, so to speak, tucking in the victims. And she walks in on it, and then they attack her and then bail.
Yeah, that makes sense too. Definitely makes sense.
And Nightmare there had a good question too. Like if the blanket was only put over Ethan's, midsection, and he was buck naked except for only socks and he had nothing on, did somebody cover up his privates or his, was there, ultimately what we're saying is, if someone took time after the killings to put blankets on the victims, it means something. Now you got to figure out what it means. Because if they took time to cover up the individuals after they were killed, it means something.
Well, and it would even be even more meaningful because the comforter that was over Maddie and Kaylee they took packaging from the scene from a comforter, and it seemed like they used that comforter, brand new comforter. They took it out of the packaging to use to cover those 2 girls. Yeah. So, I mean, that adds a whole other aspect that they cared enough to cover them.
Yeah.
To actually break out this brand new comforter in order to use it to cover them.
And again, that adds time to the crime, which we don't have enough time to do this crime in the first place. It adds personal knowledge of the victims, which the prosecution said there's no indication whatsoever Bryan Kohberger knew anybody in that house. So how did he get a personal feeling towards them? And Typically Unique pointed out this point. You remember, we heard in the last documentary on Dateline NBC that the killer took time to carve up Ethan's legs. They gave the impression that they carved up his legs in some manner. The autopsy report that we saw doesn't indicate that at all. There were some
No.
stab wounds, maybe, but there certainly wasn't the indication of
Right.
carving of legs like people got the impression. So,
And
what
Right.
is with the fuckery on this case?
And
Yeah.
I think there may be more than two. I think there might be more than two perpetrators too in the house. And the reason I think,
Oh,
I agree.
definitely.
I agree.
again, if you wanna go by, take it with a grain of salt. But Dylan saying, that statement where she heard someone say, "I'm here to help you." Now, the issue that I have with that statement, "I'm here to help you." So is it one, if it's one of the perpetrators saying it to another perpetrator, "I'm going to help you," whatever was going on. The issue with that, we don't see any of Kaylee's or Maddie's blood inside. There's no cross contamination inside Ethan and Xana's room. So if you had, so it can't, so the perpetrator or whoever, the one or two perpetrators who were, if you want to say one or two people who were upstairs, or whatever, the people involved killing Kaylee and Maddie are separate, then because you would have cross contamination. You would see Kaylee's blood would be in Xana and Ethan. So there's no real cross contamination there. So it makes me think that it's like two different events kind of going on, or maybe there was maybe there was one or two people out, also outside who were making sure that no one, whatever the goal was, that no one is going to escape. Mm-hmm. And then people are fighting, and then someone else came in, to help, their buddies there finish off the thing. But
sure,
there's definitely something there that, I'm here to help you. Well, it couldn't be the person upstairs couldn't be the person that helped downstairs.
But again, we have to ask ourselves the question. Right. Was the "I'm here to help" just the Vampire Diaries playing on the TV, That's what we have to ask ourselves as well.
Well, there's that too.
Yeah. I mean,
definitely got to think about it.
I think that the bound and gagged stuff that we heard about initially, I think there is something to that. And it was just one of the other things that the school was trying to euphemize what happened and their influence over law enforcement, because they wanted to try to, in my opinion, I think there were several things that we were never told about that happened. And I think potentially, I just have to say it again, I think that it's very possible that there were sexual assaults involved. I hate to say it, but if they're lying about all these other things and they don't want it to get out that someone was bound and gagged, then it could be, what is the reason for that? Why? We know it was a brutal crime scene. Why leave that part out? Well, to me,
here's the weird.
Last thing, if you don't want to let it get out to the public that there were sexual assaults involved, right? You would cover up that detail also of the bound and gag.
Yeah.
Right.
No, and you're right. And I'm not saying you're wrong when I say this, but do you remember how emphatic they were? They multiple times. I want to make it clear. There is no signs of sexual assault in this case. They said that repeatedly over and over again. I want to make it very, it was to the point of odd that they want it to be so clear to us. I want to make it very clear. There's no signs of sexual. So is that a sign that they are misleading you? Because why are they making it? Why is it so important for them to make sure we're clear there was no sexual assault in the case?
Right.
So,
and I think it's a big thing. I think a big thing, we've talked about it a few times, but still with the timeline, I know phones are not proof of life. We've talked about this many times, but the fact that Maddie and Kaylee's phone both stopped showing any kind of anything. There's no TikTok, no Snapchat, no calls, whatever. What was it? 254 or 256? So I think that it's one of those times. I forget the exact number, But the fact that both of their phones go silent at the same time, I think that's probably when
Tells
they
you a
were
lot.
gagged or
Yeah.
they were awake. These are college girls. They didn't just all of a sudden drop off. I mean, something went on right at that time.
Yeah, and the reason why I bring this up also is because if I don't know if we can even use Dylan as any kind of source of information, because I just don't trust anything that she said.
Right.
But if Maddie was very intoxicated, right? If let's say there was somebody already in the house, like people already in the house waiting for them, and Maddie could have gone upstairs to lay down because she was intoxicated, and Kaylee was still hanging out downstairs, and then somebody that could have climbed in through the top balcony, could have attacked Maddie, and then Kaylee, that's where there's someone in the house, and again, it could most likely more than one person, and then the other people heard, and then it escalated from there. But that would also, if you look at a lot of cases, a lot of times sexual offenders feel shame afterwards, and so it could have been the violence escalated out of someone interrupting them, attempting a sexual assault, and they could have. I don't even feel comfortable like talking about the details.
I know,
but
I know.
like if you look at some of the notorious cases, if some of the victims were bound and gagged, that also implies that they were planning to do something different with the person that was, or persons that were bound and gagged. And my gut feeling, and this is purely speculation, is that Maddie was passed out in a room upstairs, and people were either waiting upstairs. That's my initial impression. They were already there waiting upstairs, and then she was passed out and she was bound and gagged. And then, Kaylee was still downstairs, and then she discovered someone was in the house, and that it all escalated from that.
It's funny, Joe, that one of my theories was, you guys, that if we're to believe Dylan at all, okay, she claims that she hears Kaylee go to bed with the dog, so on and so forth, whatever. But then she said she hears her come running back downstairs as fast as she can, screaming somebody's in the house, and she's in her bedroom when she hears this. I had to wonder, could you have, Dylan claims that she was kind of maybe drunk a little too much or tired or whatever you want to call it. What if what she heard was Kaylee running upstairs from down below? Maybe Kaylee was downstairs in that office, okay? And she hears Kaylee run upstairs. Now, knowing that because this is one of the things with Pov's video that I did agree with a lot. Like I said, with his stuff, there's a lot of stuff he puts out that I do follow. I think we had spoke about that a little bit one too, about what happened with Kaylee.
Yeah.
Finding Kaylee's blood on the table, finding Kaylee's blood spattered on the walls, the half wall, and in that whole area there was kind of odd if she's upstairs in her room. So you got to come to a conclusion as to how that happened. So if she were to come upstairs, okay, running upstairs from downstairs, screaming somebody's in the house, which would be very easy to do if somebody came through a window, came through the door, whatever it was, she was in the office and they surprised her and she bolts, right? That could be how I heard somebody say earlier today, that could be how the Sensi thing got broken, and that could have been part of the whole flash or whatever. Anyway, that would explain in a sense how she got back to her bedroom, where everybody's kind of struggling how this happened. Maybe she was running up there to get away from the situation and either got caught up by somebody else up there again or got caught. Meanwhile, that could explain somehow how the blood trail happened in that area when it shouldn't be there. So at that point, I had to wonder, that could get her back in the bed. That could explain some things if she were in that basement, and they've never gone there with that as being like in a different part of the house, maybe hearing something the wrong way. You know what I mean? That should be something thought about too, in my opinion. I'm just saying. So,
DA, would you allow me on this thread to just give a quick theory?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Based on what I just said, you didn't hear a lot of talk about Maddie.
not
Right?
at all.
You heard
No.
Kaylee was playing with the dog, whatever. So I
Right.
think Maddie was really drunk. She went upstairs, and everybody else was hanging out. And somebody could have already been in the house.
Right.
I believe that it's possible that Kaylee went upstairs to go into her room,
Yes.
right? Like she was going to go sleep in that other room, the one on the same floor
Her
as
actual bedroom,
Maddie's
yeah.
room. Right. And then she hears shit in the other room.
Yeah.
And then she runs downstairs and says somebody's in the house. And then the people in the room hear her, and then they come out and they run downstairs. They attack Kaylee in the main room there, the living room, kitchen area.
Yep.
And then Xana hears them. And because like it's not a crazy idea to think if Ethan's passed out in the room, let's just say, and Xana's the one that fought, right? So she runs out because she hears Kaylee being attacked. But the reason why I'm presenting this as an idea is because
that was my initial theory, JJ. Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, because why would Steve G mention some of the people being bound and being gagged?
And I want to point out another thing. The reason why we're stuck on one killer and BK is the idea that BK arrived at 4:07 and left at 4:20 based on the car and all that stuff like that, right? But if you factor in the rumors that someone was already in the house, secreted into Kaylee Gonzalez's closet, waiting for Kaylee Gonzalez in her closet, and was already there, they could have been there for hours before. And somebody could have come to pick up that killer after the killings took place in the house. And that's the person they're left with, because it's possible that person is dead now, that killer, or they're gone or whatever. And all they're left with is the getaway driver that came and picked them up after the murders had taken place for potentially hours. And so somebody comes to pick him up, and all they're left with to prosecute is the guy that showed to pick him up. And they're like, well, I know the guy's involved because he shows up to pick him up. So we'll just make the whole timeline fit to the window of him showing up and leaving and say it all happened right there.
No,
which
that's
would explain
very
both.
plausible. Yeah, very plausible.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, if you I'm just thinking the gagged comment is, I think, extremely significant. I really believe that, because if to me, somebody that commits sexual crimes, it could have never been planned to be a murder, and it just it got the person could have been high, they could have been fucked up on something, and when they got caught, they had to react and respond, and I believe it was more than one person.
Yeah,
it makes sense. It definitely does. Definitely does.
Yeah, and somebody had asked, and I don't want to go too long on it. Somebody, Missy Childress, I think, was in the chat and asked, I would like to hear DA's reasoning why he said everything kind of started at the bar that night. And I rather than go into all the details, if you're really interested to hear me go wax on it philosophically and long about it, look for on my channel, my book review of When the Night Comes Falling. I think it was chapter 12, in which Howard Blum, the guy we've been talking about at the beginning of the show, had a chapter called The Corner Club. And he lays out a bunch of weird shit that happened in the Corner Club. Why Kaylee and Maddie picked that bar in the first place. The strange shit that happened with Jack Showalter at the thing. The lies about Jack Showalter at the thing. The fact that Jack Showalter follows the girls out and has a discussion with Maddie and says they're going to get you for that, and all that weird shit. I'm saying to you, when I read that, I went, there is fucking no way that's not coincidental that they all just end up getting killed right after that event. That was spillover from something that happened in that bar. That was my gut instinct. And if you want to hear my reactions to all the reasons why I start to lay out that a lot of what happened that night, it was spillover from the bar in some regards. The whole What did you tell Adam? Showalter lying, in my opinion, saying he didn't know Maddie, yet he's on camera talking to her. Not Maddie, so Kaylee. I didn't even know Kaylee. And he's seen talking to Kaylee that night. The whole thing stinks of a bunch of lies. And they were looking at Showalter for a long time, and they took extra prints of Showalter, and they thought that had something to do with it. And I think there's a reason why they think it had something to do with it, because there's something there with that night.
And they caught him lying, and there was no follow-up on it.
And he seemed
he said that he got
nervous.
Yeah, he said that he went to pick up he went to the Floyd's cannabis shop there, and there's no footage of him there. And then he went to was it McDonald's or whatever it was? They got all the footage and everything. Wasn't there. They have no footage of him. So he's lying. But there's no follow-up.
I'm still convinced, regardless of what scenario you have, that what happened there ties in somehow. I haven't made the full connection, but it ties in somehow.
That.
Yeah.
Especially what did you say, the Adam thing? That walk has always bothered me. I always thought that specific thing had something big to do with it, in my opinion.
Sure, yeah. It just feels, I mean, the whole thing is just off. Everything about it is off. And we're supposed to just, and it's like the excuses for it are just horseshit. They just don't want you looking into it. That's my opinion.
I agree with that fully.
Well, let's wrap up for the evening. It's been great as usual. Our panel was heated. I love the fact that we come on with no real battle plan, and we're at it for 2 hours and could go longer if we wanted to. But that's about my tolerance level for at a
great
time.
Conversationalists. We can have good conversations every time.
Absolutely. And again, maybe we did a disservice by giving Howard Blum a bunch of relevancy again by talking about his new theory, but I couldn't let it go. How do you let go a guy that's on multiple documentaries telling us Bryan Kohberger did it and did it alone, and now he's like, you know what, I'm thinking I was wrong. Actually, no, you're Howard Blum. Everyone else was wrong. I just wrote what everyone else told me. The prosecution, I think, was wrong, but I'm not wrong, even though I went on every documentary talking about how this is how it happened, but it wasn't me. It was they got it wrong. I just reported what they said. All right, let's go around the horn. Robin, 1-1. We'll go JJ, and then we'll go Dago to close out. I'll close out after Dago. But Robin, what do you got?
Well, it was more stimulating conversation as always. We never lack for anything to talk about. That's for sure. And now the cat is trying to photobomb me. Get out of here, crazy critter. But no, thanks for everyone for coming out. Make sure you like the video, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And you guys out there, you're tremendous. We couldn't do what we do without you. And we'll be back again tomorrow night for more.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And 1-1, what about your closing thoughts?
Thanks to the panel. Thanks to Meatballs, Denizens, of course, our great mods, everyone who helps put all these shows together behind the scenes. Great discussion as always, and make sure you pay attention to that Hunter case. It's going to be a big thing. I'm sure you can expect Lee to probably do a long form video. I can guarantee he will.
As soon as I fully understand the legal nuances, I'll do a video.
Right. Yeah. So that could have, a huge effect on many of these cases. So keep fighting, and thanks everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much. And JJ, State of the Deep, what do you got?
Yeah, thanks everybody. Thanks to the panel, Denizens, Meatballs, and the mods. Yeah, I just think there's questions that just keep arising because there's so many different inconsistencies with this case. There's so many things that I think we've been lied to about with the Idaho 4 case. And I think you really have to just, I don't think you can trust anything we've been told. I really don't. And that's why I think more theories keep getting bounced around and different versions of theories. It's because of so much fuckery, obviously.
It's insane, the level of fuckery. 100%. Crazy stuff. All right, Dago, what about you? Closing thoughts for tonight?
Great, as always. Great and amazing conversation. As we, like you said, always just seem to be able to just snap our fingers and it happens without fail. I want to thank everybody that joined us tonight. All of the moderators, you're all so very amazing. I appreciate and love each one of you guys so very much. Thank you to the communities. You guys are amazing as always. Absolute. Nothing but love for all of you guys. And God bless. Good night. And we will see you guys very soon. I'm looking forward to tomorrow.
All righty. And for myself, I will say thank you all for being on top of this case and not getting tired of listening to the case. We're kind of tired of it. At the same time, we're kind of like, how do we let it go at this point? It feels like we're so close to have something major breaking. The story is finally starting to be proven to be horseshit. So how do you let it go at that point? You can't. So thank you for watching. Make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. If you haven't done so, make sure you subscribe to Dago's channel. JJ soon will get his channel up and running. So we've got good things going on. One's apparently not going to have a channel, or, so we don't have to worry about that. Robin, we don't know about that, but we know Dago does. So make sure that you've liked and subscribed to both of us on our channels. And thank you. We will all be together again, hopefully as a family, tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the Crimes After Dark. Take it easy.
Have a great night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Night.